You please welcome Elka Graham. Thank you. I'm going to sit down because then you can't see how tall she is versus me. We were going to do this standing up, but there's not a chance. Welcome her again, Elka Graham. Now, Elka, if somebody kind of looked you up on the web, you're not actually Elka Graham, are you, these days?
No, I'm not. I'm Elka Whalan. So, married 4 years ago. Oh, one of the best days of my entire life, as so many of you would know who's been married. And my husband was like, "You're becoming Elka Whalan." And I thought, yes, love my husband and proud of being Elka Graham, but yes, I am officially Elka Whalan.
Now, you also, when you got married, he's actually kind of in the Olympics as well, and he's off to London as well. So what does your husband do?
So my husband and I, great story, I often say that the gold medal that I really brought back was meeting my husband. And that all actually happened, it was 2004, and we were in the computer room in the actual Olympic village. There's a fantastic, about this size, full of computers so all athletes can keep in contact with their parents and friends. And I sat next to this guy and I thought, he's pretty good looking. And he said to me, "Are you Elka Graham?" And I said, "Yes, I am." And he said, "You used to play water polo?" And I said, "Yes, I did." And he said, "Well, we used to be in the same team." Now, I was so nervous that at that stage, my form of reaction was sarcasm, which we know is the lowest form of wit. And I actually said to my now husband, I said to Thomas, "Well, I don't remember you, I only remember good-looking guys." Now, that was my first sentence to him. And then he stood up and left, and I thought, well, I think I blew it. I think I tried too hard. But no, we got to meet each other and became friends. And then 4 years later in Beijing, married. And now 4 years on, we're married and we've got 2 children. So who knows what another 4 years will bring us.
So two children. Tell us about your children.
Well, we have a newborn who's just 18 weeks now, Edison, and it's just incredible having children. And just not long before that, about a year's gap, we had a little baby girl, Nevada. So we had them very, very close together, and I'm ready to go for number 3.
Now,
Best thing in the world. Love it, love it, love it.
Now, I know Elka loves her children because I had a phone conversation with her and I rang her back, and as she answers the phone, I could hear this, "Look at you, you gorgeous thing." And I thought, she's obviously not talking to me. Elka, let's go back to swimming. When did you were obviously water polo, but when did you get into, how'd you start swimming? What was the start of swimming for you?
Oh, well, I mean, just being over there at the Sunday school then, I've got to admit, I kind of wanted to stay there. They're having so much fun, and I was explaining to them, so I'm one of 4, so big family, there's 6 of us, and so my parents were born and bred in Manly, so always around the water, so my parents thought it was very important to learn about swimming and surf awareness. So I started half-an-hour squads, and basically it all started was my older brother and sister were down there, and they said to me, "Can we get Elka to join in?" And the coach said, "She's 4, she's too young." So I dived in the next lane and swam 14 laps at the age of 4 to kind of show him, tell me I can't swim. And he kind of looked at my parents and said, "Get her in." So we started half-an-hour squads at the age of 4, just once a week, having a lot of fun. And then it just kind of trolloped along at 9, if we all remember doing show and tell. I got up and said that I was going to be the first person to go to the Olympics for swimming and then run across and do athletics. Now, whilst that didn't happen, I guess already subconsciously at the age of 9, I knew I wanted to go to the Olympics and do something special.
How did that form in your mind? Were the Olympics just on, or somebody had told you about it, or the squads were looking to the Olympics? Why the Olympic kind of thing at 9 in your head?
You know, God grants you with a gift to do something, and every single person in this room has a gift or a talent. And, you know, it's even said that in the Bible. And for me, I just know that when I dive in the water, there's this amazing feeling, feeling's not even the right word, there's this amazing emotion of once you dive in the water, it's just complete and utter silence. And when I swim, I don't need to think. It just happens, and I just knew that was my gift, and I knew that I'd be crazy to be granted with that and not follow through with it.
This is going to sound like a dumb question, but when did you know...
Never any dumb questions.
You haven't heard it yet. When did you know you were good? When
did I know it was good? Well, I mean, that opens up a really big a thought in terms of, I was just saying to the children before, I never actually made a school final. I never made it to state at school. I remember ringing my parents at the age of 15 crying because I'd gotten something like 50th in a 50-metre race, and I wanted to know why all these girls were faster than me. And at that point, my parents said one of the best things that, I still take to this day, and that is to not compare myself to anyone else. And I think today, in today's society, too many people do that. And it's better to be a first-rate you than a second-rate of somebody else. You know, no one can ever be the person, no matter how hard I try, I can never be you, Kyle, and you can never be me. So I going forward with that, I just knew that I had it within me to do it. And when that decision came and you heard about Sydney 2000 hosting the Olympic Games, I just thought, I want to be there. And I'm a statistics person, and I know that there are 86,400 seconds in a day, and that 3% of a nation ever make a national team, and 0.8% get up on that dais, and I thought, I want to be one of that percentage. I want to be that 0.8% up on the dais. And just with that, at the age of 15 or 16, still with not that much talent and not going ahead forward, I just thought, you know, God, I want to do this. Let's make this happen. And kind of from that moment, I just changed, and we did it.
When did you kind of get into the place where you're into state teams, representative teams, and looking like you're in the Olympics? Obviously, at 15, you weren't there. So what age did that happen?
I know. I was waiting to go through puberty. Sometimes I still think I'm waiting to go through puberty. So, you know, it was just waiting for that extra energy, that extra lift. Great question. At that time, I was heavily involved with surf life saving, and I was offered a contract to do one of the women's Ironman series. So I went home and I got 2 big pieces of butcher's papers out with my parents, and I did pros and cons of what exactly I wanted to do. And so I started with the pros of surf life saving, like, you know, fast, easy cash and good looking boys on the beach and, you know, all those
all the important things.
Yeah. And then when I did swimming, I was doing the cons, like, you know, my perfume is chlorine, it's up and down that black line, it's thousands of laps, you know, you have to be one of the best in the world to make money. But then there was just one word for the pro, and that was Olympics. And I just knew in my heart, Kyle, I just knew that I wanted this more than anything. And it was a decision that I didn't need any other help from, because it was something intrinsically that I knew inside of me that I wanted to do it. And with that, I went to speak to my coach.
And
I went up to her and I said to Narelle, hi, you know, I'd love to go to the Sydney 2000 Olympics. I believe I can make it. And she looked at me and she said to me, Elka, I think that's great and we'll give it a shot, but I think your time will come around 23 in Athens 2004. And I said, okay, and walked out. And at that stage of being at 17, I learned one of the biggest lessons when I walked out of the pool. And for me, that was, I just had someone squash my dream. And even though I respected her and appreciated her and I knew she was my coach, too often in life when you are in a job or in your workplace and you go up to someone, hey, I've got a great idea, hey, this is a good initiative, I think that I deserve a pay rise, and then someone squashes it, you often just take their word for it and walk out. And I thought, no, I know with 100% conviction this is what I want to do. So that night I went home and I planned how I was going to speak to her. And the next day I went to her with complete and utter respect. And I said, Narelle, I know that I can go to the Sydney 2000 Olympics. You're either going to be with me, and if you don't believe in me, then it's been a great partnership, but I need to go to someone who will believe in me. And I think from that moment, she knew that I was serious about it, and she just looked at me and said, let's go for it. So from that moment, every day waking up, I had a sign on my wall that said, Elka Graham, every day, in every way, you're becoming a better person, and because of this, you're becoming a better athlete. And I surrounded my room with 150 colourful quotes, so that no matter what the morning was like or how cold it was at 5 a.m, I would wake up and I'd see this bright, positive quote and I'd think, right, let's start the day. Like, I think I was born excited. It's a blessing to wake up every single morning and just say, what has God got in store for me today?
So give us a picture of what training was like then. You talked about getting up at 5 o'clock. So what would be a kind of typical training week as a 17, 18-year-old preparing for the Olympics?
Sure. So the alarm goes off at 5 and I'd look at the quote, and then, I'd go have my 3-Weet Bix with light milk and a sprinkle of honey, and then we'd get to the training pool, do a couple of stretches, and then we'd be in anywhere between 100 and 200 laps in that morning, which, might sound like a lot to people, but when you're in that zone, you just do it and it just happens. And I would think I needed that every training session counted and that I trained my hardest so that when I got up on the blocks, there was not one girl. There was no reason I could get up on the blocks and be nervous because I didn't go to a training session or didn't put my 100% in. So, I mean, you do an immense amount in the morning, and then from that, I would go to school, do school, and then come and work at either the canteen at the pool, or I actually also worked for an obstetrician who actually delivered both our babies. So how's that for connection? And then from there, we'd go back to training again. And then in the middle of the day, you'd have weights as well and physio appointments. So it was literally about 20, 30 hours a week of training, but I loved it.
So tell us what it was like. Like, where was the moment that you knew you were going to Sydney 2000? As in when you were actually told or you knew you'd made the team?
Yeah, sure. So at the time I was swimming around, I was a 200, 400 freestyler. So I was swimming around 2 minutes and 9 seconds for 4 laps. And Susie O'Neill was swimming 2 minutes. Now 9 seconds is pretty much so from kind of where Karl and I are sitting up into where the back of that door is. It's quite a long distance. And in the 9 months leading up to the Olympics, and I decided I wanted to go, I dropped 1 second every month. And so it came for me that the final was on. I remember the song that was playing, and I swam the race of my life and made the team. And it was incredible moment for an 18-year-old to look up and to see the people you love the most, which is your family. And I was just like, thank you, God. Thank you, Mum and Dad. Thank you, brothers and sisters. I did it. And to have a community around you, as you would know here in your community as well, like Manly is just so close-knit. And to have people come up and be proud of you no matter how you went, it was just everything that we'd put in was fantastic. And what made it even more special was we created history because Narelle Simpson, my coach, and I were the first Australian female coach and female athlete to ever go to an Olympic Games together as a swimming partnership. So it was very, very special for her and incredible for me. So
the night where the team walks into the stadium, the opening ceremony, and the Australian team walks in, what's that like?
Oh, wow. It's, I almost feel like saying to everyone, get off your chairs and stand up and cheer as loud as you can, and then times that by 1,000 million trillion. And that is the moment you feel when your name is announced that you are one of a very elite club, 42 members of an Australian swim team, and you have all the legends and icons on either side from previous Olympics coming up and shaking your hand and saying, well done. And as an 18-year-old, when I talk about this now, it's that typical as we all do as we get older. I wish I had appreciated it more, because it just all happens so fast, and your life changes. I had $210 to my name when I was 17, and then when I won a silver, I got a check for $7,500, and I booked a meeting with a financial planner telling him I wanted to buy a house. I never experienced that amount of money before, so I had a lot to learn.
Swimming in the pool in Sydney, like that whole crowd thing, because when you're swimming, can you actually hear the crowd? Does it drive you on? What difference does that make, the crowd?
How great are Karl's questions. Awesome. The greatest noise is the buzz and the excitement that you hear. And we came on just after, as you remember, the Australians beat the Americans and smashed them like guitars. So the crowd was wild, and it was just a blur. And walking out and you hear that, and you get announced and you put your hands up and you're thinking, oh my gosh, everybody is cheering for me. And it's just an immense emotion and feeling and moment. But being a professional athlete and being at the Olympics, you need to learn how to switch it on and switch it off. So you take that in for a minute and then you just concentrate on what you're given to do. So the great feeling, Karl, that you asked is the moment you dive in that water, the noise stops and there's just complete and utter silence. And when I dive in, I'm like, right, this is up to me. And you can't hear anything in that water. And that's another reason I love being in water, is when you swim out, whether it be in the ocean or in the pool, professionally or just for fun. When you swim, you can't hear anything except the sound of that water and your own thoughts. And I think it's an incredible sport to be able to do that.
Obviously, your life changed radically. $7,500.
Yeah, rich girl.
It actually changed in a big way, because you actually ended up as number one in 200, 400 and 800. So that was a transition of growth, even from Sydney on our way to Athens. So that was an interesting period of time where you were rated as the best swimmer in the world at those distances.
Yeah, sure. And, I was ranked 72nd in the world individually for the 200 freestyle. And that's, I guess, all right, being in the top 100 in the world. But there's only one number I like, and probably like everyone else, you want to be number one. So with that, we just set a 12-month plan, and I got to do that in Japan, in Fukuoka at the World Championships, and won that 200 and set the fastest time in the world. And to receive a letter in the mail months after, officially saying on the FINA stats and boards you're the number one in the world was just a moment. It's the best time I've ever opened the mail. It was great. And for me, it was always being very grounded and having my parents grounding me, and knowing that when I would be getting up at 5 a.m. in the morning and driving, and you'd see all the lights in the houses turned off, I would always get an immense moment of joy, because I was thinking, look at what I'm doing 2 hours before the day started for most people. And it's like anything, it's hard work. You have to put in the extra miles to be able to climb the mountain and make the difference. And so getting to number one in the world was fantastic, but I also learned that at the top of success, you often hear people say it's harder from the bottom to climb to the top, where I disagree. Having been at the bottom and being at the top, there are always ankle biters, and once you reach that top, you are perceived a different way. People watch your every movement. When you think no one is watching, even to this day, there's still someone watching you. And it becomes character and reputation almost in the water and also out of the water.
2003, you had a heart scare.
Yes, I did. Oh, it just went a bit funny on me. I was in World Championships at Barcelona, and previous to that, I'd had some problems at training where I'd just get out and feel really dizzy, to the point where it happened a few times when we thought it might have been just a bit of overtraining. And I've always been healthy and eaten right, and we found out that I had a heart arrhythmia. So I spent a good month in hospital and was told I couldn't go to World Champs and possibly not the Olympics the following year. And after one operation and a lot of different tests, we ended up clearing through it and going through it. But that was if I could do that time all over again, I probably would. It was a time that I got too big for my boots, which I was saying this to Karl the other day on the phone. It was a time that I particularly didn't like the person that I was. And it really made me reevaluate everything, and that's really where I came back to God and thought, okay, I need to get this right, because I'm not on this earth for me, I'm on this earth for Him.
So you're number one in the world. They're pretty big boots. So how do you get too big for your boots? What was it that set you to a place where you thought, well, I don't really like who I've become?
Well, it wasn't that I went out and did anything outrageous, but life suddenly changed. All these things that I used to watch on ads, like, oh, look at Kieran Perkins being on an Uncle Toby's ad. That started happening for me, and I signed with Uncle Toby's and Speedo and some really big names, and kind of gone from no money to having a huge, immense amount of money. Like, I didn't even understand what tax or GST was. So if someone gave me $10,000, I'd spend all $10,000 of it, not thinking I'd have to put some to the side and learn actually what to do with it. And everything was kind of like, from photo shoots to filming to shooting, and it was just, I almost felt that I was above certain things or certain people, and with that I just really didn't enjoy the person that I was, and I just knew that needed to be some grounding, and I had a lot of work to do with myself. And I said to Karl, it takes a big thing to get up on stage, and I'm sure there's been a point in your life where you've just thought, oh, why did I do that? And it's hard to say that you didn't like a type of person that you were, but I think being between kind of 18 and 23 is when you do those crazy or silly things, or you don't actually appreciate things until you're that little bit older. And so I'm just so glad I kind of nipped it in the bud when I was at that stage and thinking, okay, it's just not about being a good swimmer, it's about being a good person and riding on from that.
In that process, you ended up reconnecting with faith and with God in your life. What brought about that change?
Yeah, great. My parents, my mum is actually Jewish and my father is Christian, and always brought up in a Christian household, went to Sunday school, and so always believed in God, but I always feel that if you're not connecting, if you're not at church regularly, if you're not reading the Bible, which is His word, then not that you're a backslider, but you're just, staggering along with God. He just wants the closest relationship with you possible. If you talk to him, he's going to talk back and answer to you as well. And so for me, I always believed in God. I was always a Christian, but I was never an active Christian. And so 2003 came, and a school friend of mine who was very, very heavily involved in Christianity asked me to come along to one of his parties. And at that stage, he was one of 5 in a big Christian household. He drifted off and just did some wrong things and just got mixed up in the wrong crowd. And I ran into him, and he just looked completely different. Face had looked different. It just didn't look like him, almost disfigured. And he told me that he was working for KFC when he just hit rock bottom. And as he was closing up, a group of people came in and went to use the toilet. And when they came out, they held a gunpoint to his head. And he said, before they pulled the trigger, the last thing that went through his mind was, would God have been happy with the way that I lived my life? And thank the Lord, his life was spared, but they severely bashed him, and hence why he had face reconstructions and all of this. And hearing his story was really amazing. But then when I went along to his party, and being in an environment of people there was just a sense of absolute genuineness, sincerity, love, warmth. And at that time, I was just like, I really feel the strong need to go back to church. And I did, and I've just never, ever looked back. We've only just been going forward. And I just don't know. I think it's incredible, the transformation that God and Jesus has made in my life. And I just don't know how else you do life without them. Like, they're the best thing in the world.
Yeah, which is fantastic, because that happened in the midst of your success.
Sure.
And then you went on to Athens and you continued to succeed in swimming. How did kind of personal faith and swimming, was there any connection in there? How did it change the way you approached life and swimming and competition?
Oh, well, I can't tell you how many times, and you often get people up here who have success stories, and that's great to be able to talk about it, but I know so many people in the audience also want to hear, okay, well, what about some of your lowest of low points? Like, there were over 41 different countries that I sat in a hotel room and wept and cried because the race didn't go my way. I was ranked number 1, and I ended up second. I couldn't ring my parents because it was 2 a.m. in the morning where they were. And you just have moments of complete, especially in sport, you have moments of complete and utter of doubt. And that's why when you do hit the top of that, people will always watch your every move. And the surest way to see if someone's having a good day or bad day, whether you're in sport or not, is their body language. And if I would walk into that pool and shoulders hunched over and wouldn't look Karl in the eye, he would already know before we dived in that he was going to beat me. So you need to regroup.
I already had that covered.
You would need to regroup and show, and that's why when people ask me who I look at someone like a Roger Federer, who is so humble, who, when he loses or when he wins, never makes a big deal. He's just, if you turn the TV on mute, you wouldn't know if he won or lost because he's just always consistent. And then someone like Alexander Popov. Now, I've seen him lose races in huge competitions and win races in not big competitions, and he's still humble and the same as well. And I think that's the difference between reputation and character. Reputation is who you think you are, and character actually defines who you are and who you are in God's eyes. And for me, in that pinnacle of that, bringing me back to faith, was just, I felt home. I felt at home when I walked in, and I could just say to God, this is me and this is all of me, and let's change me, let's grow me, let's give me fresh oil and move me from the inside out.
A couple of other things to talk about. One is, what's it like, you do Athens 2004 and then you aren't as quick and the ankle biters are now overtaking you and you realise it's probably time to give up. Yeah. What's that like?
Well, I mean, wow, that was harsh, Karl. I love it though. Fourth at Athens, which is the worst position to ever get in Athens. But to be able to go to 2 Olympics, I just knew before the Olympics in 2004 that my time was coming. And having been on that journey and that faith with God and, retiring then after 2006 in Commonwealth Games and finishing on a great note, there were 3 things I wanted to achieve my whole swimming career. And that was to obtain an Olympic medal, to win a World Championships and to break a world record. Now, I achieved those 3 things, and they're the 3 highest things you can do, but I was willing to do that, whether that took me 7 days or 7 years or 17 years. That was what was inside of me, and I was going for it until I got it. And I did get it. It took me 7 years, and on the 16th of May 2006, I happily retired. In the process leading up to retiring or making a life-changing decision, People often ask you, is that tough, that actual decision? The thing is, if you're smart enough, the process is the complicated part, and that's where you take time. And for me, it took 6 months to really work out what I wanted and where I wanted to move forward. But once I made that decision, and if you have God in your life and you make that decision, then you need to trust in Him and move forward. So when I made that decision, I never looked back. And so when people ask of comebacks, or you see athletes coming back, I wonder if there's something still inside of them that they're still yearning or still wanting to tick off that box. And you're not going to find it in swimming, or you're not going to find it in sport. You're going to find it within yourself. So for me, the question came, my husband, Thomas, asked me, Elka, well, does it matter if you're standing on the dais in Beijing? And I said to him, no, it doesn't in 2008. Now, had he asked me that in 2004 or 2000, I was like, what a dumb question. Of course I want to be standing on the dais. But when he asked me that question, I realised, no. I just knew that God had so much more for me in life. And it's made me realise now that swimming was just a small facet, and yes, I was gifted with that talent to do that, but to become a mother now and to connect with people and, to talk, about this journey and to find out what life is all about, which is about relationships, which is about walking through so many airports and seeing a cleaner in an airport who would not want to be there at 2 a.m. in the morning, and who knows what their story is, but looking at them in the eye and saying, hey, thank you so much for cleaning the bathrooms, and saying it with sincerity. No one would say that to them, but that just might make their day. And the average person influences 10,000 people in a lifetime. Now, none of us are average in this room, so don't influence 10,000 people. Aim to influence 100,000 people. But by doing that, you have no idea the power of what connection is and where that can lead to, and just encouragement and empowerment with people all the time, because you never know what's going on in people's hearts or in people's heads. And if you give them that chance and you listen to them, they're going to open up to you. And the greatest thing that anybody loves is to talk about themselves, because they have a deep need to feel connected and to feel accepted. And if you can do that with people and connect them on a level, then, the world's their oyster, and they're just going to keep moving up and moving forward and feeling more positive about themselves. And hopefully, like a domino effect, they'll do that to the next person as well.
As a mum, how's that been?
Oh, it doesn't even compare to the Olympics. It is the greatest thing in the world. I've loved being pregnant. That's why I want to do it again. I love breastfeeding. I'm already praying, God, please, we'd love 4 babies. I'm like, come on, just twins. Just hit me with twins. It's why we had them so close together. At about 28 weeks, when Nevada was 28 weeks, we fell pregnant with Edison, and I was like, yes. I mean, I had great births. The obstetrician who I work for and midwives thought I was crazy. When I pushed both of them out, I was like, see you for number 3, and they were like, wow, like, this girl did it drug-free. I was like, it's the greatest moment when you hold your baby and you look at them and you think, God, thank you. Like, my husband and I just cried, like, how blessed are we and how blessed are all of us that God gave you a healthy child that you got to bring into the world, and that you have the right and the ability to bring them up. And we've just started teaching our 1.5-year-old how to pray, and she says, hands, and she grabs your hands and she goes, pray, and she closes her eyes and she goes, dear God, amen. And I say, Nevada, that's really good. We're just missing 2 things. I'm thinking for a 1.5-year-old, you can't say too much. I'll say to her, you say, thank you and I love you. So we're kind of working on that. But to bring children in the world is just, I've had to, you had to pray and say, God, take me to another level. I remember going into labour with Nevada, and I was in the shower, and the 2 things I prayed for was, Lord, increase my capacity. And I think every single person in this room every day should be praying that. You want God to increase your capacity. So when you see someone in that road with that flat tyre and you think, I don't have time, well, who knows what their story is? So just pull over and help them. And the second thing was to make wise decisions when you're sleep deprived, because we've all been through that before. But the great thing is kind of the 4 a.m. and 5 a.m. feeds, I don't mind, because I used to have to get up at that time and dive into a cold pool. So I'm like, baby on a breast? This is a piece of cake. So, I absolutely love it. And being a mom as well, you connect in a whole different realm. I literally didn't want to come and sit here. I was having so much fun at Sunday school. Just being around children, their infectious and their innocence, and, to kind of think that you get to bring children up in the world. Yeah, bring on 10. I love it.
Well, Elka, we're glad that you dragged yourself away from Sunday school and came this morning. Will you thank Elka Graham?
Thank you. Thanks, Karl. Thank you.